Hey guys, Brass Facts here. This is my favorite LPVO, the PLX-C 1 to 8x first focal plane. This is the exact same scope, but now it's red dot bright. Let's talk about it.
I've done a review of the PLX-C already, so if you want the nitty-gritty of that scope, go ahead and watch that video. The short of this video, the PLX-C RDB, is that video, the PLX-C, but now the scope gets bright. Really bright. And that's it. For Friday at Work lunch gang that needs to be preoccupied a little more, let's touch on why the original PLX-C is my favorite LPVO. So on paper, at 17 ounces, it is very light, even by second focal plane standards, cutting off about 6 ounces on average compared to most other scopes. And this isn't a second focal plane scope. It's first focal plane, means it's a lot nicer to use as you get out there in range. The actual body itself is a convenient compact form factor, hence the C in PLX-C, all the while bringing 8x magnification to the table. If you've ever bought LPVOs, you'll know that these 4 features, beyond being quite rare to obtain in a single package, also tends to take otherwise good scopes historically and give them a very lackluster 1x performance. The PLX-C has one of the best 1x performances of any first focal plane scope I've ever used. The bezels basically disappear, the image is extremely flat and true, and the reticle design is visible without illumination at the 1x. I could probably sum this up and say, well, the original PLX-C is just a Nightforce NX8 with a massively better 1x and glass clarity for about $300 to $500 less, but it doesn't have red dot bright illumination. Or the PLX-C is a 4-ounce lighter Nightforce ATACR with 1x performance, costs $1,500 less, and once again has no red dot bright performance. Now, you're not stupid, you know where this is going, I'll cut to the chase. The PLX-C now has an RDB variant, a red dot bright variant, making it the 4th sort of first focal plane LPVO on the market with red dot bright performance, completely sort of upending that dynamic I just described. Now, this red dot bright performance doesn't come for free, and it pushes the RDB price tag to a pretty steep point. $2,000. Oh, I'm sorry, $199.99. Which, by the way, I paid for that completely out of pocket. Youch. So if you want to help offset that, consider using the affiliate link. You know how they work if you want to buy one of these. But yeah, what was I saying again? ADD's a bitch. Oh yeah, at $2,000, you're paying almost ATACR money. But the PLX-C has a Nightforce ATACR feature set, and for most use cases seems to execute on the concept better for cheaper. The only upside of the ATACR is that it has a nicer image quality at the high end at the expense of the 1x, making it sort of just a better DMR, SPR type LPVO. But I do have to interject, the ATACR isn't actually really all that standout in that niche anymore, despite the minus 2,700 in your bank account and the word NF plastered on the side. The ATACR is actually just beat out by a lot of options nowadays, image quality wise at like half the price. Off the top of my head, I don't know, Voodoo 1 to 10x. And for those that are like Brass Facts, you don't own one of these, dude, I've looked through so many of these because people keep putting them on their demo guns. Oh look, we have money and you have the best scope on your gun. And so I've seen a lot of these things in action, and I've never been compelled to even come close to wanting to buy one of these. Am I off track? Yes, but I also like to spend every moment I can to mention that the ATACR is in fact extremely overrated.
So, I think it's probably important to talk about in the video of the scope that is red dot bright, why exactly you want red dot bright performance. The first category is the mandatory category. These would be scopes sort of like the NX8, the ATACR, and the 1 to 6 Tango series, the nicer first focal plane variants, and then definitely scopes like the 1 to 10x Vortex Razor Gen 3. With these scopes, just due to them being a little bit more long range oriented, we find that the reticle on the 1x is borderline unusable. Now, of course, they could do things to the reticle design to make it more visible, but why design your way out of a problem when you can brute force your way? So a lot of these designs kind of just rely on the flaming hot red dot illumination to act as your 1x aiming source. In this scenario, the red dot bright performance is not just a nice feature on the scope, but a mandatory inclusion to make the scope actually usable at the 1x, at least at speed without having to hunt for a reticle. Quite outspoken as to not being a large fan of these designs, primarily because LPVOs, this, and every single one in between, have doggy doo-doo battery life. So if you forget and leave the dot on by mistake one time, and then you pick up the rifle to throw into action, you're going to find that you have a significantly worse LPVO than you would otherwise expect. Similarly, it also requires that you micromanage the actual device, and that is, while not undoable, you can certainly kind of use the red dot until you have a chance to turn your reticle on, or just turn your reticle on to begin with as soon as you realize that you're about to need it. But in practice, I'd rather not have to deal with that. I'd rather have a scope and a gun that is functional without having to turn on my doohickey, and then when I do need to turn it on, I get some added bonus. The second sort of category or reason why you need illumination, specifically red dot bright performance, would be low light scenarios. And this is why I argue all LPVOs need some form of illumination. Because when you are shooting in darker settings, the flash of your flashlight is very much often enough to overpower your finely etched reticle at the 1x. Having illumination allows you to overpower this by putting light on your side of the scope, allowing you to see against this very high contrast scenario when you're using your 14 Gorgillion candela white light. Even in non-white light scenarios, if you're shooting into shadows, you'll very often find the black reticle on your scope, be it at 1x or 8x or everything in between, doesn't have enough contrast to really be all that visible, and it's nice to have a little added contrast. The final sort of use case is to allow you to be a little bit more both eyes target focused on your shooting. I'm not going to get into the benefits of why we want to do this. The important aspect to note is that all competition shooters strive to do this. With LPVOs, this is much harder to do than red dots just due to the inherent design of these, even the best LPVOs like the PLX-C, not actually being a true 1x or giving a true to life 1x image. And thus it becomes very easy to kind of laser lock on that 1x reticle instead of being target focused. When we have red dot bright illumination, it becomes much easier to do so because we're not looking at that finely etched reticle. We have this very bright, almost fluorescent thing that we can kind of just look past and put on the target very much in the same way we would use a red dot. And that's kind of why I'm so hot on for the PLX-C RDB. We combine a already good 1x performance that can already function standalone, so we don't need to be worried about battery life, turning it on and micromanaging it. We can just use the LPVO as is. But in scenarios where we have time or we want that added performance and we can kind of do it as an administrative task, we get that extra little bit of oomph for both speed, consistency, and more.
The PLX-C RDB is not just a PLX-C with red dot bright performance, it's got some minor generational improvements as well. The reticle, for example, has been rehashed with actually my exact wish list from that aforementioned PLX-C review, which is very curious for those that know how vitriolic the reticle designer was to me after having those exact suggestions. The outer ring has been shrunk, making it act more like a large MOA dot for most shooting instead of a bracketing ring that we had on the original. This means we do actually lose some ease of use, maybe let's say 20 yards, 15 yards and in, but we gain a much better design out to about 100 yards while remaining on the 1x. I personally think that's a good trade-off. The rest of the reticle has been trimmed a bit, still keeping up PA's reputation for putting out reticles that look like TIE Fighter crosshairs with chevrons, but hey, this is much more reasonable. The chevron is basically there just for branding, and overall, I'm quite a fan. The PLX-C RDB also comes with a auto on-off feature built in for the illumination. Great in theory, most LPVOs have a battery life measured in seconds, but in practice, I still think you need to micromanage your illumination because outside of home defense, it still will drain to zero in very quick order.
The auto on wasn't on when I lifted it up.
However, because the auto on, auto off is quite aggressive and not very sensitive, I find it works really well to save your battery when you forget to turn it off at the range, bring it home, shove it into your gun safe, and then pick it up a couple days later and realize, ooh, I left the illumination on. And you'll find you still have battery because the auto on, auto off kicked in. There is one weird quirk with the PLX-C. It's not a downside per se, but it is a quirk. And if you're not aware of it, you're going to think it's a downside, or it's going to manifest as a downside. Because you can focus so aggressively on the 1x, you have a very large range between the 8 and 1x focus, resulting in very murky 8x images if you're focused to the 1x, and a very lackluster 1x image if you're focused to the 8x. Now, to be sure, if you focus to that 8x, the image is going to clear right up and look quite good. This isn't a big of a deal as it might sound here. For most scenarios, and when I use it, I have this thing's focus set to 1x, and I really don't notice a problem because I'm only using maybe 3x, 4x, or 5x, or even sometimes 8x, but I'm shooting very fast and kind of running gun style, it's not that big of a deal. It really only manifests when you're, proning out, taking your time on a shot, and shooting very small targets very far. And in that case, you're probably going to want to adjust the focus so you can get a little more clarity. I do this by just sharpening the different focus levels, and that lets me swap between those when I feel like it.
Okay, sidebar. Some people on the interwebs have mentioned that the PLX-C red dot bright illumination vanishes when you move your head around. And as you can see on the 1X, where you actually want the red dot bright performance, that is not true. But as you move off axis at the higher magnification, the dot actually does begin to dim and turn off. Now this is much more obvious to the eye, but we can kind of see it in action here.
I'm probably the only person that cares about this, but I really want to point out that the PLX-C box is like the size of a whole ass PCC. This thing is huge. Let's close this out. The PLX-C is already a solid scope, so adding red dot bright performance just makes it a better version of what it already was. But that comes at a price tag of $500 or generally more bucks for a scope that didn't really need red dot bright performance in the first place due to a very functional 1X design. Which answers the question, do I need to upgrade? With a resounding no. If you already have a PLX-C, then the PLX-C you have is fine. But if you really like red dot bright performance, or just have buku bucks, yeah, I think the PLX-C is a solid contender for the highest end of scopes. It does fall a hair short on glass clarity, so once again, keep that in mind. Granted, I've never actually been all that impressed with LPVO glass to begin with, so consider how far you actually want to chase that dragon and how much it costs you in the rest of the scope. But more importantly, I think by all other aspects, the PLX-C not just does well, but is a contender for one of the, if not the best LPVOs for general purpose usage. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. I and many other people have been getting reamed exceptionally hard by YouTube recently as they've rolled out a video AI checker, which tends to classify a lot of firearms as content as not just monetizable, which is, par for the course, but also in the 18+ category, which is absolutely murders performance. So if you want to support your favorite content creator, consider, for example, in this video, perhaps using the affiliate link of the item in question, tipping via the comment section down below, or using something like Subscribestar, or I don't know, leaving a encouraging comment in the comment section so I feel better about quitting my engineering job to do YouTube full-time. I don't usually make these outros of like and subscribe, but it's worth considering every once in a while. Firearms YouTube is a very sketchy sort of profession. If you want to support your content creators, now is probably one of the times where they need it more than ever. But yeah, that's it. See you guys, same time, same place, next Friday. Look at the beans.
Oh, caught. I'm sorry. I'm getting YouTube footage for the end of Papa Needs YouTube content.
Oh, yes.